Hi there, fourth graders. For this video, we're going to be talking about comparing fractions using a new method that is called the least common multiple, or you'll see it a lot of times abbreviated LCM, which is just the shortened version of least common multiple. So before we dive in and look at how we do that, I kind of wanted to break apart what these three words mean, because that's really going to give you an idea of what we're looking for. So the first thing I want to look at is the word least. Least is just another way to say small, the least amount, the smallest amount, okay? Common is what they share. When you have something in common with someone or something, you share a common interest with that. You share those things. And finally, multiple, where we talked about earlier in the year, we've had factors and multiples. A multiple is a multiplication number. So for example, a multiples of 3 would be 3, 6, 9, 12, and so on and so forth. If we wanted a multiple of 5s, 5, 10, 15, 20, and so on and so forth. So when we're asked to find a least common multiple, or LCM, we're actually looking for the smallest number that both numbers share that's a multiple of each numbers. So we're looking again for the smallest number that's shared between multiples or numbers that those two numbers have in common. So now that we know what least common multiple, a small number that's shared between numbers, okay, let's take a look at how we would find a least common multiple or an LCM, okay? All right. So let's say I wanted to compare, excuse me, 2/5. Is it greater than, less than, or equal to 1/3? Now in the past, what we've talked about in our strategies, we've drawn out. We've also cross-multiplied for our butterfly effect. But looking ahead at fifth grade really uses that LCM model to really help us understand multiples, to see the difference in fractions, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to find the least, smallest, common number that's shared, okay, and multiplication numbers for each digit, okay? So what we're going to look at is I'm going to start with 5, okay, and I'm going to write out the multiples of 5. So we have 5, 10, 15, 20, and 25. And I'm just going to stop there for now, okay? Because we started with 5. Now underneath, I'm going to write the multiples of 3. 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18. I'm going to stop there for now. So we have our multiples of 5 and multiples of 3. So now your task is to see what number do they share, or that C in LCM, what do they have in common? And what's the least, the smallest number they have in common? Well, I see here that the smallest number that those two numbers have in common is 15. 15 is our LCM. I'm going to write that over here. LCM equals 15. So that's our goal. That's our goal. So now we need to figure out how can we change 2/5 into a new fraction that has a denominator of 15. What would I need to multiply? 5 times what is going to give us 15? Now, if you said 5 times 3, you are 100% correct. 5 times 3. Now remember, whenever we're dealing with fractions, whatever we do to the bottom, you're right, we have to do to the top. So I'm going to multiply my top by 3. So I get a new fraction of 6/15. All right. Now let's do that to our third. We need to figure out, how do I get my thirds into 15ths? What do I need to multiply? 3 times what is going to get me 15? Because we're looking for a common multiple. Now that we found it, we need to change our original fractions to that. So 3 times what is 15? Well, I have it right here, which is kind of nice. 3 times 5. Right on. So remember, what you do to the bottom, you need to do to the top. So I'm going to multiply that by 5. So my new fraction with same denominators now is going to be 5/15. So now, what's kind of handy of having a whiteboard, I'm going to erase our original fractions. Okay. Now, looking at these two numbers, it's easier to see. With a common denominator, I can see now that 6/15 is greater than 5/15. So that means if I were to look at my original problem was 2/5 and 1/3. So these are just, what's the right word I'm looking for? Equivalent fractions for each other. So that would mean that my original statement is 2/5 is greater than 1/3, because once I found my greatest common factor, it was easier for me to see that answer. Let's take a look at another one here. I know it seems like a lot of steps, my friend, but it really does pay off for when you're going to get into that 5th and 6th, even 7th and 8th grade math. Well, let's take another look. This time, let's take a look at 1/2. Is 1/2 greater than, less than, or equal to 3/7? Now again, we're trying to get away from using our butterfly method and drawing it out by practicing our multiples to try to find that LCM, that least common multiple. So to figure that out, I'm going to start off by my multiples of 2. I'm just going to list them out. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16. I'll stop right now. All right, got my multiples of 2. Now I'm going to write my multiples of 7. 7, 14. Oh, I can stop. I can stop. I don't need to continue because I see that 7 has a multiple of 14 and 2 has a multiple of 14. So that means that my LCM is going to be 14. My least common multiple between 2 and 7 is going to be 14. All right, so now we got to figure out, well, I need to make this into 14ths, and I need to make this into 14ths. That's my goal. So 2 times what is 14? 2 times, well, I have it written right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 2 times 7 is 14. So that must mean that 7 times 2 is 14 as well. So remember, whatever you do to the bottom, you got to go do to the top. Times 7 times 2. So let's take a look at our new fraction. 7 times 1 is 7. 3 times 2 is 6. All right. I think I see what my answer is going to be. So that means, now that I have it rewritten, 7/14 would be greater than 6/14. So we found that least common multiple. Digging it, dude. All right. Let's take a look at something that you're going to be working on in your worksheet here. You're going to have a fraction that's already given you your denominator. It's saying you need to find your denominator. All right, DEM for denominator, just a shortened version. A denominator of 24. Of 24. That's your goal, is your of 24. Now that's really nice. They gave you what those numbers have in common. So I'm going to take an example right from your worksheet. It's 1/3. okay? Now they've given you that answer. So we're gonna say, well, how do I get to the denominator of 24? If I know that 24 is my least common multiple, what times 3 is gonna get me to my 24? Well, again, here's where your multiples really come in handy, friends. We can go 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21, 24, and there it is, 24. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So that means 8 is our number. And what we do to the bottom, we got to do to the top. 8. So that means my new fraction is going to be 8/24. So on your worksheet, one of your worksheets this week, they've given you your least common multiple. So that's really handy and nice of them. So that's what we're going to start with. So let's look at another one. From your worksheet, we're looking at finding your least common multiple of 24. This time, let's look at 1/6. Okay? Now we have to get to our denominator of 24. So now we got to ask ourselves again, 6 times what equals 24? And that same number you're going to do to the top as well, because these are the same numbers. I'm going to write that in there. Same number. Yeah. Okay. These two numbers are the same. You can't multiply the denominator by one number and the numerator by a different number. They have to be the same number. All right. 6 times what is 24? Take a second, think about it. 6 times what is 24? I got 6 times 4. 6 times 4. So I'm going to do the top as well. So that means with a denominator of 24, my numerator is 4. So it's kind of like finding an equivalent fraction, if you will. We got to figure out what times this will give us that. Okay? Well, there you go, my friends. We're going to take a look one more time of how to find that least common multiple. So let's say I'm going to compare. What do I want to compare? Let's take 2/5. We're going to say 2/5 is greater than, less than, or equal to 3/6. Okay? Greater than, less than, or equal to. That's what we're trying to figure out. Okay? So least common multiple, smallest common multiple that these have in common. Okay? I'm going to start with my 5s, my multiples of 5. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35. I'm going to just stop there. Let's look at our 6s, our multiples of 6s. 6, 12, 18, 24, 30. I can stop. Just by listing those numbers, I can see that my common multiple is 30. So that means my LCM is 30. So I'm going to erase this just for a second. So we need to figure out, we need to get this to 30 and this to 30. So what did we multiply? 5 times what is 30? Well, it's 6. So that means I'm going to multiply 6 at the top and get my numerator of 12. 6 times what is 30? Well, it's right here, 5. So I'm going to multiply by 5 at the top, and I have 15. So let's get rid of our work and see what we have left. Well, if I was comparing these two, I would say that 15 is greater than 12/30ths. So 15/30ths is greater than 12/30ths. Or you can always say it the other way. 12/30ths is less than 15/30ths. That's that other way to look at it. Okay. So your worksheet this week is going to be looking at your least common multiples or finding your denominator. So your worksheet is giving you your denominator of 24. They gave it to you. So you need to figure out if you have the fraction, let's say 1/2, okay? You need to figure out what do I need to multiply to get to that denominator of 24. And whatever you do to the top, you do the same to the bottom, vice versa. They go together, hand in hand. All right, my friends, please make sure that you have all the things ready to rock and roll for our second small group meeting, and that's when we'll dive into math. If you have any questions or if something doesn't make sense or it's just a hard subject, please reach out and we will Zoom together and we'll work on it together so that you feel confident and comfortable about that, all right? All right, my friends, have a great day. And like I said, if you need anything, any help, let me know. Bye, friends.